Hello, welcome to my full bookshelf. God, it's been a minute, hasn't it? And I do have a decent excuse, but let's start with most important stuff first. My background is different, and that's what today's video is all about. I bought a flat, and with that I bought a bookshelf as well. But if you've been following me for a few months now, you know that, yeah, sort of like December time when I started doing Vlogmas, I was not feeling that great. And throughout the months, even when I was doing vlogs and all that, I kept referencing to something that was happening health-wise that made it really hard for me to read and keep focusing, and my eyesight not being great. That excuse is that I made a tiny human. I'm now a mum to a beautiful little girl. You will not see her face, and probably unlikely that I'll share her name publicly. But yeah, I'm a mum and I'm really happy with this little tiny, sometimes screaming little child. As I said, a lot of neat things happen so far in the year, and a lot more will happen, I guess. But for now, I just wanted to sort of reintroduce the channel with my new, in my new bookshelves, and let me tell you, I'm beyond excited with how this room is looking. You are now in my living room, and I'll show you more in a second. But let me put the little munchkin away. This is an overview of my bookshelf situation. You are not able to see that much because the window / balcony is that way, so all the white bits you see is light. Anyway, so let's talk about the bookshelf itself. This is a design from, if I'm not wrong, 1949. It's a Swedish design, so we had to order it. I think the actual factory is in Sweden, and then this specific build is has come from France. So it took a while for it to arrive, but that was fine because we had to redo sort of like this room. This is called the string design, and the string system, which I think is a registered trademark or something like that, basically works in a way that allows you to customize as much as possible. It's divided into two parts. The one part is the panel, so the bit that you see as the sides, and the other part is the shelf, which is pretty much self-explanatory. There are different colors of sides, different colors of shelves. The shelves that we currently have are solid oak wood, and the side panels are 30 centimeters by 2 meters, and they are in black metal. The good thing about this is that in theory you could have enough to fill a whole room, and you can customize it as much as possible within the limits of the design. So that means that if one day we move into a larger space, we can just keep adding side panels and shelves, and the shelves sort of interlocks with one another so that you can stop them from moving and sliding. I love this design. I do have to say it's not one of the cheapest designs, but in my opinion it's worth every cent. It looks great, it looks exactly the way I had envisioned it, and I'm so glad we were able to not just afford it but make it fit in this sort of living situation, because as you can see we have sofa bed out here as well. But let's move on to the shelves themselves. As you can see, above every single section of our bookshelf there is some sort of empty shelf, this one. The reason why they're currently empty is because I wanted to have something not just to protect the books that are underneath, like in this case, so that, you know, there is no dust on top of them, but also to have room to grow. So for me, right now those shelves are empty, and they mostly have a protective sort of purpose for the books that are underneath. One day I would like to have more books in my collection, most likely, so I do know that there is room to grow, and there is quite a lot of room to grow because all up is about 3 meters in length, this bookshelf, and that means 3 meters in length of potential book space that one can add. Let's move to the first section. This first section is mine, just mine. These are diaries that span from 2009 up to 2020. plus some more journals or diaries, or there are a couple of those that I use for work, so journalism stuff. There is also this little camera. It's a Brownie Model E from, I believe, the 1940s. Don't quote me on that, I might be completely wrong, but I found it in no, it wasn't a flea market, it was a little second-hand shop in Greenwich. I think I paid £10 for it. I just like the look of it, but apparently the man that sold it to me said that if I managed to find the right film, I'd be able to shoot some film, because that should still be fully working. Whether that's a lie or not, I will never know, because I doubt I'll be able to find film suitable for the Brownie, but still. Let's move on to the next shelf. This is what I called my pride and joy, and this is what I also call the shrine. So I am a journalist, and I've decided I want to be a journalist since I was very young. And over the years I've read multiple books about journalism, or what it means to be a reporter, or some tales written by journalists. The reason why I call this a shrine is because many of these titles, if not all of these titles, are very inspiring to me and are written by people I respect a lot within the industry. So let me show you some books. So we have, I'm obviously not going to go through all the books that I have in here, but some remarkable ones. Obviously this is one of my favorites by Martha Gallerin. Martha Gallerin was one, if not probably the first war journalist, female war journalist that reported during the Second World War. Martha Gallerin. Lily Gruber is another journalist, probably the journalist that inspired me to become a journalist, because I remember watching her reports following 9/11 from Afghanistan, if I'm not wrong, and Iraq and Iran and all that over the years, and she really inspired me to become a journalist. I briefly consider calling my daughter Lily. I can safely say that's not her name. Lindsay Hilson's biography for Mark Colvin in Extremis is absolutely brilliant. Christina Lamb, Small Wars Permitting, some sort of memoir mixed with pieces she's written from around the world over the years. Wonderful book. A Woman of No Importance, that's the life of Virginia Hall. Virginia Hall was not a journalist. I mean, she worked as a journalist, but she was mainly a spy. And then of course East West Street and the Right Line by Philippe Sands. I've spoken last year extensively about how beautiful East West Street and how important of a book that was. Cannot say it enough. Please do read it. But yeah, this is my shrine, as I call it. Yeah, I'm very proud of this shelf, and I wanted to be one of the first things you see when you walk into the room. Oh hi, didn't see you there. Joking. This is a ridiculous angle and probably not the best, but it's the best one to show you what's up here. So you are balancing on my kitchen counter table, and I am balancing on the sofa bed, which is absolutely fine if I wasn't this short, which I didn't quite calculate, but I cannot get up there without moving the entire shot, so this will have to do. Up here we have two more shelves that are worth noting. We have mainly travel books slash books that are in some way connected to exploration, whether that's of the body and the mind or places. So there are books that are organized in alphabetical order in terms of writer, and they're mostly travel memoirs, adventure memoirs. There are a couple of books that are particularly dear to me, which I'll talk to you when I do the close up, and then it continues up until we reach anthologies, and we have some anthologies up here, a picture of me and my friends, and two collections by Daunt Books. So these are the two shelves that deal with mostly travel, I'd say. They go in alphabetical order, and I do want to point out some of my favorite books. I also want to point out this one, Alan Booth, completely new copy, paid £3 at the charity shop today. New, nobody's read it before because the pages hadn't even been, you know, properly opened. But yeah, I got that today, so it's been added right away. Anyway, I included Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain in here. If you know me, you know that this is probably one of my favorite books of all time. It was so important for me when I was at a stage in my life where I didn't really know what to do with my life in terms of, you know, leaving a country that felt like home. So I was about to move from the Netherlands to the UK. I didn't know what I wanted, and I needed a little bit of inspiration and courage, and this book definitely gave me all that. Then there's also Tracks by Robin Davidson. One of my favorite adventure writing pieces is non-fiction. All this is non-fiction. What else do we have up here? We have, oh yeah, I mean, In Thin Air by Jon Krakauer. This book I read while I was having a really stressful time in my life, and it just made me want to go on a mountain and scream, even though obviously if you know the story, what happened in 1996, it's very tragic. It still makes you feel like you really want to be out in nature. And then the unmissable Paul Theroux section. I absolutely adore Paul Theroux when it comes to travel writing, and my favourite one is The Great Railway Bazaar, which I actually read pretty much at the same time as I read the book that I just mentioned, In Thin Air. I think I bought them at the same time. And then we move here to sort of like collections. They are from Lonely Planet, and down here is a little book / pamphlet I got in Prague at a market about a golem. This little chap I mentioned before, it was given to me by a woman who used to look after the dogs of a man who lived close to where we used to live, and one of the dogs looked exactly like Poppy, with the exception of being slightly larger and male. And unfortunately, when the man whose dogs belonged to passed away, she was cleaning up his house and she saw us walking and said she would love for us to have this, considering that dogs were being moved away. So now we have a little reminder of Poppy's old friends. That's me and two of my best friends. I'm sure they don't mind me sharing this gorgeous piece of picture. But yeah, that was us in October 2019 when we went to our reunion party. And up here I have At the Pond and In the Garden. These are Daunt Book originals, a collection of essays. And then up here, why not, let me show you right away, it's my collection of sort of classics and modern classics. So we start with a Penguin Classics. These are the old style Penguin Classics. I think now they've slightly changed the way they look, but I haven't bought any new ones just yet. Then we go into Penguin Modern Classics, some remarkable title right there with George Orwell. And then we move on to Vintage Classics. I think probably out of that, my favorite is Chatswin in Patagonia, which is probably one of my favorite pieces of travel writing. I decided to put it there just because I wanted to hit the rest of the editions, but realistically it should probably go into this section. But yeah, that's the top of my shelf, and there is a beautiful string of hearts that did suffer a little bit while we were moving, but it's still thriving. So hopefully we're done climbing. I'm now sort of like crouching on the sofa because that's the best way to show you this section on my bookshelf. But right behind me you will see that there is this shelf of large chunky hardbacks. If you are a historical fiction lover like me, you will have heard of a beautiful Welsh man called Ken Follett, and he writes some of my favourite books. Those books are, I have two of his series here. So I have the Century Trilogy, which is The Fall of the Giants, Winter of the World, and Edge of Eternity, which deal with the First, Second and Cold War. And then I also have the collection of books that deals with the what's it called, the Kingsbridge sort of quadrilogy series. Next up we have this shelf, and this shelf is also another one of my favorites. The reason for that is the fact that one of my favorite authors of all time is features on this shelf, and that is Haruki Murakami, a Japanese author who has been translated in many languages, a Japanese author that many people think will probably win the Nobel Prize at some point. Some hardbacks, because I couldn't wait to read them in paperback, and some paperbacks for the books that I either read in Italian first, but I still wanted to have the English version, or that I read so many years after their publishing date that they were already available in paperback. And you know, I do love a paperback. Then we also have my little plant. This is called Penny. It's a Chinese money plant. I also bought this when it looked really, really tiny. It's grown so much, not quite as much as a string of hearts, but you can't have everything. And next to it there is a Freullander, which is a analog camera that belonged to my granddad, and he didn't explicitly leave it in his will to me. Everybody in the family agreed that if there was one person that was going to get it, it was going to be me. It's a West German camera that was produced in the 1960s, early 1960s, 1963 I want to say. Yeah, it's in perfect working condition. I've already shot one roll of film. And then we also have 3 little George Orwell books that are in perfectly great condition. There are some Penguin special editions. We have 1984, Down and Out of Paris and London, which I absolutely love, and Animal Farm, 3 big classics by Orwell. Right next to that we have this other shelf, and this is a bit of a mishmash, mostly because when you have a partner and you buy a property together, you need to agree that they're also going to get some space. So this is Andrew's sort of space for books. We have goal, some match books from Tottenham Hotspurs, which is his favourite team, some more football stuff, which I cannot give you much information about because I didn't read it and I don't think I will be reading. And then we also have, since he's a primary school teacher, he's currently doing some research for the upcoming classes. We have The Boy at the Back of the Class, which he keeps saying is really relevant at the time, because I think the boy at the back of the class is actually a boy that is an immigrant or a refugee of some sort. I don't know. Then there is I think this is called a peacock plant. It's doing alright, it's not doing great. A picture of me and Andrew from 2017 I want to say, and some Penguin classics minis, and some vintage minis, and Greta Thunberg, 5 years so it's basically tiny books. I'm back at normal level, look at that. Behind me there is a new shelf. This shelf is the beginning of more shelves, so this entire row, so about 3 meters of books plus another 2 meters of books is fiction. Mostly fiction. There are a couple of non-fiction titles in there, but you will see why they don't quite fit. The way these books are organized is simply in alphabetical order in terms of author's surname. The reason why I decided to go for this is because in my old flat I used to have them divided by genre, and well, that was really helpful in terms of I want to pick that genre and I'll find it immediately, and then within that genre I'll find the author I want. I realized that what I was doing was simply picking from the very same shelf all the time without really acknowledging the fact that there were different genres. So for instance, there was a time when I was really into historical fiction. I would just pick at the same shelf. If you see, most of the time these titles are probably historical fiction. We do have some translated fiction that sort of falls into the literary fiction. We have a little bit of fantasy, a lot of crime that doesn't belong to me. But yeah, I just wanted to see as many books as possible in a row in alphabetical order, as if I were in Waterstones or a different bookshop. I also decided not to differentiate between hardbacks and paperbacks. I had them split into hardbacks and paperbacks back at my old place, but I realized I didn't particularly like that. This is a set of 4 postcards that I got at the special book event in Shoreditch for the launch of Beautiful Word, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. As I said, here it continues. Most of this, as I said, is fiction, but then there are some non-fiction titles, such as, for instance, The Wives' Tale, such as, for instance, I don't know actually, maybe not in this bit, you can't really see that many, but I'll show you more. This was a gift from one of my best friends and his boyfriend when they came to visit in 2017. In theory, if you burn it, it'll show the skeleton of the owl. In practice, it's way too cute to be destroyed, and I didn't want to destroy it. We move on to this section, which I would call probably Andrew's favourite section. He is a big John Grisham fan. John Grisham writes usually crime / police thriller novels, and he has a few books that he bought himself, but also what I really like is that it's got a few from his grandmother's collection. She was also a big John Grisham fan, so a few of those books, especially the hardbacks from the 90s, are hers. And then there is one that my dad brought him last time he came for a visit, which is in Italian. He already read this in English, so he wants to practice his Italian by reading it in Italian. Oh, the Nightingale. This has nothing to do with John Grisham or crime, but obviously alphabetical order. So it's here. We continue with the alphabetical order for mostly fiction titles. I would say probably in this section everything is fiction. Oh, maybe the Goodbye to Berlin is not, but the rest probably is. Oh my god, Hurricane Season, Atonement, two of my favorites. The Night Circus is also really good. The Silent Sea, which I still haven't finished reading, but now you know why I couldn't read it, because I was so morning sick. Bluest Eye, really, really touching. Look, this is still my string of vase. Look how big she is. She lost one of these really long threads as we moved, which broke my heart, but you know, there's worse things than this one. I'm holding you with the other tripod because we're way too low to use a normal tripod, so this will have to do. It might be a little bit shaky. You can see a little bit of my kitchen behind me. Continue from there, still in alphabetical order, mostly fiction. We have some David Nichols titles, Ogawa, which we talked about in the International Booker Prize video from last year. Then we have, this is what I really want to talk about, so my unrevised collection of titles. These are all second-hand titles, and I have the entire collection in Italian back home. The covers are so much better in Italian. These are probably mass market paperback covers, and they're not particularly nice. Some of them are quite cringy, like, yeah, this. But I'm still really proud of this book. They're really, really gorgeous. It's not the entire collection. I still need to find the rest of the titles, but since I sort of had a few of this, I wanted to stick to the ugly versions. But it's so hard to find unrevised books these days, so I'll keep looking. And then here we have another really good book that I read recently, which is The Comfort of Evening. I mean recently. By recently I mean a year and a half ago, but still. Oh hi, I'm back on the sofa. Don't you just love this beautiful angle? You can see all of my forehead, probably out my nostrils. Isn't it lovely? Let's move on to this shelf. So we continue with the alphabetical order. We have the new Sally Rooney, which I start reading, but I want to do a full vlog about that. So if you're interested in a full Sally Rooney sort of experience about Beautiful World, Where Are You? Let me know in the comments below, or send me a tweet or a message on Instagram. But I think I really want to do some sort of in-depth review with a vlog of that book, because it's been hyped so much, and for me Sally Rooney has been a bit hit and miss. Conversation with friends I didn't particularly enjoy. I found her a little bit pretentious. I mean, it's still a lovely read. She writes in a really nice way, and normal people really resonated, so I really enjoyed that book. I cried. But anyway, let me move on to some other favorites. We have the Seasonal Quartet by Ali Smith. Let me just tell you, these books are phenomenal. If you haven't read them, it starts with autumn, winter, spring and summer. I mean, 4 seasons. I would say you can read them in any order, but do read read the other ones before going into summer, because you'll appreciate that even more. Bruce Springsteen's biography, In Memory of Memory. Some of my favorites. Not this one. This one we can cancel that book. But especially the Goldfinch. I bloody love the Goldfinch. And yeah, and this is towards the end of the collection. So we have some Hanya Yanagiara. I never know how to say the surname, but I pre-ordered the hardback for the new one that's coming out, which I think is called To Paradise. It's coming out in January. And a few more books. This book has a funny story. This massive book behind me is La Trilogía de la Niebla by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. Zafón died last year, unfortunately. Last year? The year before? Last year. He was quite young, and he was an author that can be classified as literary fiction, crime, fantasy and young adult at the same time, in my opinion. He is the one who wrote The Shadow of the Wind, The Prince of the Fog, Mist or something like that. I never read them in English, so I don't know the titles, I'm just sort of translating. But this book, I had read 2 of his books before going to Spain that one summer that I actually bought that book. And I loved his writing style so much that I was like, oh, this book hasn't come out in Italian just yet. It's a collection of 3 of his stories. I really want it, so I decided to buy it, even though I didn't speak a word of Spanish, and I read it. I read the entire, 900-ish pages in about a month, and by the end of it, my family was like, well, wasn't that useless? I'm like, no, I actually understood almost every word. So I decided to take a test, and it turns out I somehow managed to learn Spanish to an intermediate level just by reading that. So I decided to take classes after that and got to a fluent level in Spanish in just about a year. But that's the story of how I learned Spanish and how love for books can teach you a different language if you really, really want to read something that hasn't been published in your language just yet. There is also my Kindle here. I've rediscovered my love for Kindle since having a baby, because let me tell you, it's so much easier to read with one hand rather than with both hands while you have a little screaming human in your hands. A couple of candles that one of my dearest friends bought for me at the beginning of last lockdown, because she knew how much I miss bookshops, and she decided to give me this smell of books. So the one at the back is called Heat Up the Pages, and the one at the front is called The Library. My favourite, I expected to be The Library, but actually once you burn it, Heat Up the Pages is delightful. Hello from my floor. We are in one of the final sections of my bookshelf. This is a sort of travel / adventure, but not writing, it's just guidebooks. We do have some interesting titles. You Only Live Once by Lonely Planet. This is sort of like a collection of adventures that you can have that span from 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. I think that's how it's divided. Atlas Obscura. They also have a really good Instagram page, which I think you should definitely check out, but it's all about very obscure, unknown places on Earth. Then a bunch of travel guides. This is a box that once contained chamomile and now contains little bits and pieces. And then we go to my Tolkien bit. This is an edition from the early 70s, if I'm not wrong, and this is The Hobbit, which is one of the latest editions, but I brought this with me to New Zealand when I went to Hobbiton, so that is a really special thing. This next section is actually quite exciting, even though it doesn't look that exciting. This is because there's a section for my little girl. Obviously right now she doesn't read. She has one book. Oh, it's not even, oh yes it is. I bought her this thrilling book which is called Night Night. It consists of literally 5 pages and about 10 words in total. But she likes it. It's black, white and gold foil, which apparently newborns are quite happy to look at for some time, and she is no exception. There are a few kids books that we got from charity shops. This book, I knew one day I wanted to have a kid, and regardless of whether it was going to be a boy or a girl, I saved I Know a Woman, which I got as a proof copy from Kate Hodges, well, their publisher, which is Quarter Aurum Press. But yeah, so I've been saving that book since 2016, knowing that one day, 2017 I think, knowing that one day I would have a child, and that time has come. And then we have a box of what I would define as the box of crap. So there is miscellaneous items in here that range from Christmas decoration bits for parcels and boxes to cards that family members have sent over the years. Multiplier plug, which probably should go in here really. Yeah, and some magazines. There's a National Geographic magazine from 1941. Found that together with the camera that I showed you before. Then we have Pop Shot Quarterly, fabric magazine, for which I contributed a couple of years ago, Cunning Folk magazine from last year, and some more books that belong to my little girl, which is a little family series. Dear friend bought this for us, and she got it, well, she as in my daughter got it just this week. I am definitely not going to squat and become tiny to go behind my sofa, but this is the very unexciting bit that you're not able to see because the sofa is right in front of it. But it's basically folders with bills and boring stuff like citizenship documents and so on. So nothing that you would want to pick on a daily basis, but that is good to have printed, like payslips and P60s and all that. This other part of the bookshelf is also another part that allows for growth. So we currently have our internet router right here, but this can be moved to a different spot, obviously. And then next to it we have some hardback books that are quite special. Andersen's Fairy Tales, and it's an edition from, I believe, the 1800s. This is an edition that my brother got for me last year. It has stunning illustrations that I'm obviously failing to show you. They're so gorgeous, and it's in such good condition as well. These are color illustrations as well in the book, and it was quite special because he didn't tell me that there was a parcel coming my way. I just received this and I was like, who is sending me this gorgeous little book? But yeah, it was my brother. Then this one is the Screw Tape Letters, and I bought this in the Blue Mountains in Australia in 2018. I was in this second-hand shop that also happened to have books, and on the ground floor there was this entire section of really old books, and amongst them I found the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. And the reason why I got this book is because if you look inside there is a dedication, and that is to J.R.R. Tolkien. And then we have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I still need to read this, but I got it last year because I wanted to read it. I haven't got around to it just yet, but it's a really nice edition and it fits my other hardbacks. Again, because there is no chance I'm going to squat and become this tiny. Next to the special hardbacks, there are my Harry Potter in English series. I also have the Italian versions in hardbacks, but they're not here at the moment. I then have Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which I got as soon as it came out, and the special Harry Potter History of Magic collection sort of items in a book from the 2017 exhibition at the British Library. And finally, this is very unexciting, so that's why you're getting this wonderful shot. This is a little bit of statistics books, language books, some are Andrew's, some are mine, a driving theory test from years ago, and some notebooks that we have partly filled in. So this has been my bookshelf tour. I don't know whether this is in line with what you were expecting, but this is pretty much what's in my bookshelf, and I am beyond happy to be able to come home and enter this room every day and see all my favorite books on the shelves right in front of me, and also know that there is so much room to grow because all the top bit is so empty, and as you've seen, the bottom shelves are quite empty as well, and also they don't have anything that needs to stay in a bookshelf. Like there are folders, for instance, that can't be moved to different locations. So I can't wait to fill it even more, to read some more, to read some of the titles that I haven't explored just yet on this bookshelf, and also for my little one to fill her own section of the bookshelf and obviously borrow anything she wants to read whenever she's old enough. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a comment down below, give it a thumbs up, sign up for this channel, put the notification bell and all that. I mean, you can tell I've done this in a while because I'm still struggling to remember what to do when you know, subscribe to somebody's channel. But if you did enjoy it, or if you have any suggestions, or if you read some of these titles and want to tell me what you thought about them, leave a comment because that really helps me understand what you like, but also the algorithm bits and all that. So please do leave a comment down below and give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for sticking by. If you subscribed a few months ago with the hope that you would see more videos, that's definitely happening. The reason why it didn't happen is very clear now, I hope. And yeah, I needed a little bit of time. My girl is now just 2 months old, so it's been an intense few months, and I did not have a great pregnancy in terms of feeling great. And I also moved, and it's been busy, but it's been worth it. Every single moment has been worth it, and I can't wait to come back to this channel in full swing. I made some sort of YouTube plan schedule for the coming weeks, so I plan on posting every Monday. Do bear with in case it's not Monday, but every week I'm definitely planning on posting up until the end of this year, and then we'll reevaluate in January. We'll see what happens, but fingers crossed it continues long term. As I said, thank you so much for watching, and please leave a comment down below, put a thumbs up, ring the notification bell, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!